You are welcome to yet another episode of HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show, where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. This is an in-depth discussion where we dissect the charges and circumstances surrounding the case against R. Kelly, a man who for decades stood as one of the most prominent figures in the music industry. In this video, we will dig deep into the legal framework, inconsistencies, and questionable practices that have emerged during his trials, focusing particularly on the forced labor charges and broader accusations levied against him. Let's aim to separate emotion from evidence, ensuring a balanced understanding of the events. One of the most prominent allegations of forced labor came from a one Geronda Pace who claimed that she was coerced into writing letters and assisting with website updates. The prosecution argued that these acts constituted forced labor, suggesting that the mere act of compelling someone to engage in such tasks was a violation of federal law. But here's where the cracks begin to show. The legal definition of forced labor involves coercion, threats, or violence to compel significant exploitative work. Writing letters and performing minor website updates, even if they may have occurred, will hardly meet the threshold to attract forced labor charges. The absurdity of this claim was in fact quite disturbing. At one point, even the judges appeared perplexed, asking the prosecution bluntly, "Where is the labor in this?" It was a question that struck at the heart of the issue. If this was the extent of the so-called labor, how could these actions possibly qualify under federal statutes designed to combat serious exploitative practices like human trafficking or involuntary servitude? Furthermore, the suggestion that a single alleged sexual encounter could constitute forced labor simply because sex is a service usually paid for bordered on the ridiculous. This reasoning conflates consensual relationships, whether morally scrutinized or not, with systemic exploitation. By this logic, any intimate relationship with a financially successful individual could be twisted into a labor charge. After all, the state attorney believes all sex is supposed to be paid for and is therefore a form of labor.
At trial as well about the defendant's use of these isolation.
Right, but the issue is the labor component, it seems to me. So what does the isolation have to do with labor? It might all be true, but where is their labor?
Geronda, who was one of the victims of the forced labor charge, testified about how she had to write false letters. Faith also was forced to send a text message.
But is that the labor? So writing false letters is the labor?
No, the labor
I mean,
would
Raniere,
be...
these folks were doing other things. They were doing things for free, right? That would be easily described as labor. Some of it sexual, some of it not.
Well, again, I think that people pay money for work on websites, people pay money for transcribing tapes and reviewing articles, and people pay money for sex. So I think under the definition that this court has given in Raniere...
So any sex... So
This is a dangerous precedent that dilutes the seriousness of real forced labor cases. Meanwhile, this pattern of overreach wasn't isolated to the forced labor charges alone. If we examine other accusations brought against R. Kelly, a similar pattern emerges. Vague definitions, questionable evidence, and a reliance on public outrage rather than solid proof. The case against him seemed to operate more on the power of perception than the strength of facts. And while the media frenzy painted a damning picture of him, the courtroom is, or at least should be, a place where evidence reigns supreme. Let's take a step back and analyze the broader context. The media and public discourse often conflated R. Kelly's persona with the accusations. His reputation as a controversial figure became a tool for the prosecution, leveraging public opinion to push narratives that didn't always hold up under scrutiny. For instance, accusations that were initially portrayed as sinister and malicious often lacked the corroboration necessary for legal conviction. Consider how witness testimonies were treated. Some accusers, like Geronda Pace, provided accounts riddled with inconsistencies. Pace herself admitted to seeking R. Kelly's attention as a fan and later engaging in said interactions that were not adequately proven to be coerced. When contradictions in her story arose, they were either dismissed or glossed over by prosecutors, further clouding the truth. Such selective treatment raises serious questions about the fairness of the process. The trial's handling also exposed broader systemic issues. There seemed to be a willingness to interpret normal or morally ambiguous behavior through a criminal lens. Let's take the example of R. Kelly's relationships with his ex-girlfriends. While such relationships often draw moral scrutiny, morality and legality are two distinct situations. The law sets clear parameters to determine whether actions constitute crimes, and the evidence must align with those parameters, yet in R. Kelly's case the lines appeared deliberately blurred. One might ask, why was the case handled this way? The answer lies in the cultural reckoning climate. The Me Too movement, which undeniably shed light on many important issues, also created an environment where high-profile individuals became easy targets for accusations, and often without the rigorous scrutiny necessary in a court of law. The movement's momentum, while could be arguably necessary for justice, in many instances it arguably contributed to a climate where accusations alone were seen as sufficient proof of guilt. This is not justice. It's a witch hunt. Moving on, let's discuss the concept of framing. In many respects, the charges against R. Kelly seem to be constructed to fit a narrative, rather than derived organically from indisputable facts. The forced labor charges, for example, were stretched to fit actions that simply don't qualify under the law. Other accusations followed a similar trajectory, presenting behaviors that were either consensual or unproven as criminal acts. By doing so, the prosecution effectively weaponized the law, using it not as a tool for justice but as a means to secure a conviction at all costs. It's important to highlight that justice requires impartiality. It demands that the accused be given a fair trial, where evidence and not emotion or media narratives determines the outcome. In R. Kelly's case, the scales seemed tipped from the start. The media's portrayal combined with the prosecution's overreach created an environment where R. Kelly was presumed guilty before the trial even began. We all agree that charges against R. Kelly reveal a troubling pattern of overreach and selective prosecution. From the questionable forced labor allegations to the broader case against him, there is much that demands closer scrutiny. Justice must be rooted in evidence and not in emotion, in facts and not narratives. Thank you for watching this episode of HN What's Your Say? If you found this video insightful, please like and share. And let's continue the conversation in the comments section below. Let's hear from you. What are your thoughts on the case? Do you think justice was served, or were there flaws in the process? Until next time, stay informed and continue thinking critically. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say? To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.